Hello, and welcome to The View. It's very odd. Megan is not here today, and we want to start by giving a big congratulations to her and her husband, Ben, because Megan is pregnant. And we'll be talking to her all about this, later this week. It's really kind of wonderful, given everything that's happened to her before with pregnancy. So we're thrilled about that. And even more thrilling, because she's joining us now from week 2 of her self-isolation. Please welcome the incomparable, the amazing, the very, very mixed, Joy Behar.
Joy!
Hey, Joy!
Hi. Hello, everyone. How are you all?
How you doing?
You look so thrilled, Joy.
Well, here's the thing. You know, this type of restfulness is exhausting for me. I feel I'm more lethargic than normal. I have not been able to maintain 6 feet distance from my refrigerator. I can emerge from this debacle morbidly obese. It's possible. My activities included giving a bubble bath to Bernie, my dog, and the plant. You're supposed to, bubble bath your vegetables, too. There was a Zoom session last night with people that I normally have great conversations with, and I had a glass of wine, and I totally fell asleep. I mean, I can't even get myself roused to get out of the house and clean up, which I have been forcing myself to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I find it very annoying, very enervating, and my hatred for Trump is increasing on a regular basis. Just quiet.
Well, Joy, I think everybody is sort of going through something quite similar. I know, Sara, you've got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a not yet 1-year-old at home. How are you doing?
Well, there are good days and bad days. Yesterday was one of those bad days. I think when you just feel like you're trying to find structure for kids that are thrown on what to expect. They're not quite old enough to understand, but they know things are different. And it was one of those days where we tried to seek order and use some of the school's videos to help us run school, and that didn't work out well. So I was on the phone cooking, crying to my mom, saying I failed today. So you just kind of like keep everyone alive, keep everyone protected, keep the morale good, and then hope you're better the next day. So here's to Monday being better than Sunday.
Well, every day is going to be different.
Yeah.
Just like every day the kids are different. They are interested on one day, they're not interested the next. This is the way of children. And children trapped in an apartment or trapped in a house is never going to be perfect. But now, Sonny, you seem to have found a great way to handle everything, because you did your first virtual happy hour this weekend.
I did. It was so much fun. I got on Zoom. I was invited to 2 happy hours, actually. I was invited to sort of like a Netflix party type happy hour where we all agreed to watch one movie, and we drank and watched the movie together. And then I was also invited just to sort of a cocktail hour with some friends. We were all over the country, and we drank together and we talked together. Of course, we spoke a lot about the coronavirus, but one person talked about how he met someone online. As Sara, remember you were giving that advice?
I'm telling you.
He met someone that he really likes online. There are a couple of doctors that I know, and they were talking about some information that they got, and it was so much fun. And it lasted for about 2 hours. And I also participated in D. Nice's Club Quarantine.
Yes.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Manny and I were dancing. The kids started dancing. And I know Michelle Obama was on it, and Joe Biden actually popped in, and Natalie Portman. I saw Queen Latifah on there, Gab Union, and it was so much fun. I mean, I was sweaty by the end of it, as were my kids.
I want to ask Sonny a question.
Yes.
What kind of meds are you on?
Huh?
What kind of what?
Meds.
Meds? No meds, just
You mean
old-fashioned,
me?
just bourbon.
I mean, I've never seen anybody so tearful in the middle of the pandemic as you.
I'm kind of like a glass half full person. Like I just
And
I
that
don't
glass
know.
is half full of
With
wine.
bourbon. I'm being very careful. I have to say, Manny, I'm still working. I'm still coming into the studio. Manny is actually still seeing patients as well. And when we come home, Manny's used to doing this. He wears his scrubs and he takes off his clothes before he enters the house and washes all of his clothes and takes a shower. I really do the same thing. And
when he comes in the house buck naked?
Yeah, he's in the, he's in the entryway and he takes his clothes off and puts them in our mud room, and I do the same thing. And we have robes.
Should have married a doctor. This lawyer.
we have robes that we keep there, and my mom is quarantined.
I didn't realize that being on television was an essential industry. I really didn't.
Yeah, media.
Wait, we didn't check in with Whoopi. Whoopi,
So
what are you
careful.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? I'm chilling. This is perfect for me. I get to just sit and go through stuff I need to go through in terms of all the work that I was supposed to be doing, and it seems like maybe we're not going to be traveling as much. Just, listening to my books, doing my Audible thing, watching some television, not a whole bunch. And I have decided to toss my toothbrush because, when you get the flu or something, you should always toss the toothbrush that you've been using because it just sort of moves stuff around your mouth. So I'm advocating, if you can, if you're sick or you might think you're sick, get rid of your toothbrush. Start with a clean toothbrush. Don't share toothbrushes. I don't know how many people do, but it's freaky. Don't do it. And maybe that will help quell it.
Anymore. Impossible, right?
Say it again?
I said, I take it you're not going to Italy. I canceled my trip, of course. I'm sure you did too, right?
Sunny or Joy, you haven't left your basement. I didn't expect you to be leaving the country.
Joy, I'm gonna do what.
Whoopi and I were going to go to Italy during the hiatus week in April, but we can't go anymore. No way. Italy is suffering terribly. I feel bad for my people. I do.
Well, what? I'm not doing anything except on a day-to-day basis. It seems to be the only way to go. I'm not listening to politicians. I'm listening to doctors. It's what you say, Sara, every day. I'm listening to the people who know something about infectious diseases. I'm not listening to people who are maybe just GPs. I want somebody who can tell me what I need to be doing. So until somebody says, we're doing no travel anywhere for the next, 6 months, that's what's going to happen, and we'll deal with it because that's how we do. That's how we do. Go ahead, Sonny.
And of course, you can always just have a virtual cocktail with friends.
Yeah,
right?
you can Zoom right to Italy.
And
or roll something up.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
How does former White House Chief of Staff and Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel respond to the president's criticism of the way Illinois is handling the pandemic? He's live on The View next. Right now, when it matters most.
If you're trying to figure out what you can do, here are things you can do.
The View is all new every day.
It's affecting everyone's lives.
We're all in this together. The View, all new on ABC. Later, an all-new View Your Deal.
Hey, welcome back. Since the message out of the White House keeps changing, a lot of state and local officials have been stepping up to the plate to lead, and we're joined now by a man who served on both local and national levels. Former White House Chief of Staff and former Chicago Mayor, the amazing Rahm Emanuel. Hey, Rahm.
Hey, Willa, how are you?
Good. Now listen, we're a week into the White House directive of 15 days of social distancing. And this morning, you know who tweeted, "We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself." At the end of the 15-day period, we will make a decision as to which way we want to go. Now, experts say it could take months to stop the spread. Is he jumping the gun? Is he once again sort of trying to talk out of both sides? What do you think is happening here?
Well, let me say this. I think that on a general rule, what we should be doing as a country, you have kind of two different policies. The public health is built around separation. The economy is built around integration. Right. And for too long, and we're playing, and the president now is playing chasing up and trying to catch up to the problem. Those two are in contradiction, and we now need to figure out a way to make them more complementary. And I think he's getting a bit ahead. We got to make sure that we have everything we need from ICU units, all the equipment that our nurses and doctors need so they could do their job without themselves putting their lives at risk, making sure that we target, obviously, the most vulnerable of our population, meaning seniors, people with immune deficiencies, and then also make sure that part of society and the economy come back. I think the president is actually not leading in this effort, and, he calls himself a wartime president. In my view, he's been actually leading from behind, and that's not what the country needs now. It needs straight talk. It needs to be dealt with forthrightly, and if it does that, the American people will respond accordingly in this effort. And so I think he's not only jumping the gun, I think what he's got to do is have a comprehensive strategy that he tells the American people, like Roosevelt did, like others have done in times of crises, what exactly we're going to do, and how do we do it together to make sure we solve this problem.
Ron, you bring up Roosevelt. And I was reading that during World War II, he instructed Detroit to stop making cars and to start making war planes, because that man, who was a great president, understood the severity of the situation. What is holding Trump up from instituting this DPA that would actually force companies to make respirators and masks, etc.?
This gets exactly the right point. I think, let me step back, and I also think one other thing I want to say about the president is, look, in the worst of moment, Roosevelt said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. In the waning days of the Civil War, where literally American versus American, Lincoln touched a spirit with malice towards none. And rather than attack people like my governor or ridicule Senator Romney, I think the president would serve him well and serve the country well if he thought about how to bring us together and find our commonality. And I'm seeing it all across the country, and I've seen it here in our state, where people are helping each other. I'm willing to send you, Joy, chicken soup. There's an expression of love and affection for you. But on a serious note, I think that what we have to do is not just figure out how to put a floor under the economy, is start now investing in the future of this country and deal with our public health that has been starved of resources, starting to invest in our infrastructure. I don't think it's right that certain kids can go online and learn and other kids cannot, and that can make universal broadband a great investment for the country, and start to also deal with what I think is some of the problems in our production, where a lot of our healthcare equipment...
What is stopping him from doing this one important step? I mean, it's unconscionable. Is he worried about the economy, that the stock market won't reflect his greatness? What is it? What is stopping this man from doing the right thing at this particular time in history? I don't get it.
It makes no sense. I mean, I've read those similar stories, and I've read history. Literally at the moment when they looked at what Germany was producing, the United States said, look, we have to get ourselves to a different place if we're going to compete and win in this war. If this is a war, you pull all of America's resources, nothing's left on the sidelines, and he cannot play leader from the sidelines and benching a big part of America. And he has the power. He has to literally now say, this is how much ventilators we want, this is how much masks we want, this is how much protective gear we want, and direct American industry, and America and the companies and leadership will respond. And only the United States government can create that kind of demand. And I don't understand why he is willing to say, I have this power tool, but I'm not going to plug it in and use it. It makes no sense to me. And it makes no sense to the American people. And business is not going to respond unless he directs it to do it, and they're ready to do it. And this can't be done as philanthropy or charity. It's got to be led by the United States government. And he's the leader.
Absolutely.
That's what that comes, with the office comes a lot of responsibilities, and he's not exercising them.
Mr. Mayor,
does he even care that he has people who are dying because of him?
Mr. Mayor, this is Sara. I just wanted to ask you, as a politician, as you mentioned, economy is important and public health. Right now, a lot of politicians define their legacy based on the economy. Is it not most important right now to focus on public health to get through it first, because the economy can afford time and public health right now is immediate?
Well, let's take one step back. For about 2 months, he was operating under a denial and delay, that this will take care of, the weather will take care of it. And the public health officials appropriately were screaming at the top of their lungs, we have got to get the systems in place to deal with what's coming. And in fact, there's a lot of articles that the CIA was warning him of how bad this was going to be, etc., his own public health people, and he delayed that. So now we're basically on our own 10-yard line starting to play catch-up. You have to deal with the system and get its structure set up to deal with the public health risk. Now, which is what, President Kennedy used to say, to govern is to choose between bad and worse. You've now got a situation where the economy and society are on hold, and if we don't also get that moving, we're going to have a two-front war, and he has to fight both of them. You've got to save lives. You got to be strategic about it. That is exactly what Korea has done. That is exactly what Hong Kong and Singapore have done. And you also then have to deal with how to get society moving again. There is a public health risk that if people are isolated, not working, not doing anything, personal emotional depression sets in. Other aspects of self-worth set in. And so you have to balance that, and you need a leader to be forthright with the American people, and no decision you make on how to find a complementary approach, no decision is this is absolutely right and this is absolutely wrong. There are going to be trade-offs, and he needs to tell people the truth about that.
Hold that thought, Rahm. Rahm is sticking around, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey, welcome back. You know who's not the only one putting money matters first. 4 senators dumped stock after a Senate Health Committee briefing on the coronavirus threat, and people are calling them, well, they're asking them to resign. What do you think?
Well, in my view, Whoopi, at the very least, there needs to be an investigation, because what it shows, if true, is that they use this information to their advantage, and they also didn't tell the public. So they had this information, and some of them not even didn't tell the public. They sort of spun it in the other direction and told the public everything was fine. And these are supposed to be public servants. So these are supposed to be people that are serving us and not themselves. And so I was really actually so disappointed and distraught over that, because, it just seems like and Sara and I were just talking about this during the break, it separates the haves and the have-nots even more. I mean, these are people that had that information, didn't give it to the general public, and then benefited off of it. It's the worst of the worst during a pandemic.
Yeah. Whoopi, my own view on this is every person that goes out into public life should actually set up a blind trust. I did it when I got to Congress. I did it when I was chief of staff for President Obama, mayor. Automatically go into a blind trust. Now, that's a prospective change. You can say if you have net worth more than X, everything has to be in a blind trust. On this, I believe that every one of the 4 will be investigated by the Ethics Committee. They should require it to clear their name. But on a prospective basis, so if we're going to get through this together, you can't have people taking advantage economically or securing themselves economically where the rest of us are dealing with a public health and economic crisis. So in my own view, perspective, yeah.
Rahm, do you think Trump will make Burr the economy expert in if he gets elected again? Maybe he'll give him Mnuchin's job. That would be pretty much what he would do, don't you think?
Look, I think this is...
If we follow along with his pattern, that's sort of his pattern. Give the most corrupt and the most incompetent the job. Isn't that what he does?
Well, well, here's the thing. The president said he was going to clean the swamp, and the fact is, whatever actions, and I don't want to jump and put all 4 together simultaneously, but the fact is, every one of these should go into the Ethics Committee. They should issue a report exponentially, and we then should say, okay, here's a problem. Because we have a crisis, and some people look like they're taking economic advantage of it or protecting themselves at the rest of us, expense for us. It's not like any one of them walked out of a briefing and said, here's the problem. So literally, everybody should be, if you have X dollars, you should be in a blind trust, so there's no doubt about what you're doing in your public role, separate from your private role.
But my understanding is that they knew what was happening with the virus when they sold all that stock, and they kept it away from their constituency. That, to me, sounds like they should be locked up, if you want my opinion.
Here's where the contradiction is, and what's got people, I think, really angry. One, you had information. Two, you acted privately for your financial. And then three, you wrote something, a bunch of happy talk to everybody that we're going to be okay, etc. When in fact, you knew there was a coming tsunami here of a public health risk, and you didn't alert everybody else except for your stock trader.
And Mayor,
to me, that's the problem.
And the other problem is, my understanding is that Senator Burr also gave some of that information to select people, moneyed people, and explained to them that a tsunami was in fact coming, and that it was akin to the Spanish flu in 1918, and that it was going to be very problematic. So now you have the haves having information about the pandemic that the have-nots did not have. And that also is extremely troubling.
No, look, that's why,
it's more than troubling, Sonny. It's criminal. But it's not troubling. It's criminal. And those people really need to be put away.
But here's the other thing is, then you don't be penning an op-ed saying, we're going to be okay, we're taking care of it, when you know full well not only the size, scope, and scale of the problem, and the fact is that our public health system is going to rely on the good graces of our doctors and nurses who are doing valiant, unbelievable things, when in fact they're fighting a virus on their own, one hand tied behind their back, because when you need a leader, our leaders on the sideline. And that, to me, what's worse is that Senator Burr, while he was doing something for his personal financial security, was telling people everything's going to be okay, when he knew, rather than being Paul Revere, he was Benedict Arnold in that case.
There you go. I actually have a legal note. Senator Burr said this: I relied solely on public news reports to guide my decision regarding the sale of stocks on February 13. Senator Loeffler, who's also been accused of the same behavior, says this is a ridiculous and baseless attack. I do not make investment decisions for my portfolio. Investment decisions are made by multiple third-party advisors without my or my husband's knowledge or involvement. Senator Feinstein said, during my Senate career, I've held all assets in a blind trust, to your point, Rahm, of which I have no control. Reports that I sold any assets are incorrect, as are reports that I was at a January 24th briefing on coronavirus, which I was unable to attend. Inhofe, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Senator, says the New York Times allegations are completely baseless and 100% false. I was not at the briefing on January 24th. I do not have any involvement in my investment decisions.
Would a money manager dump over $1 million in stock without asking the client?
What, say that again?
No, it doesn't work like that. You can. Clients, a company is not allowed to sell anything of yours without your explicit knowledge. They would be tossed out of the investment corp. You can't do that. So people were aware of it. See this.
And
here's the other problem is that, listen, people will always take an easy way. They'll always make a stumble. When you get caught, that's not the time to compound the lie.
Right, that's right.
Yes, you say, I made a mistake, I got excited, I shouldn't have done it. Now you double down and say, well, nobody told me. It's a lie, and everybody knows this.
That's right.
See, my thing is, look,
we're running out of time, but
look, public service should be a good thing that people do, and the problem is we've all built up a level of cynicism about why people are in public service, and this scratches that itch, and that's what's sad.
And on that note, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. In a press conference this weekend, NBC News reporter Peter Alexander gave you-know-who the chance to make us all feel a little bit better. But, of course, you-know-who went in a different direction. Take a look.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast.
Yes, didn't he say we're all in this together?
Yeah.
I mean, last week that's what he said. So what was that all about?
That was kind of shocking to me because it was actually such a softball question and
easy.
It was so easy, and I think there are so many Americans that are nervous and scared. But Mayor, I have a question for you, because what I think we've seen is real leadership from at a local level. We've seen it from the governors. We've seen it from mayors. I know this weekend I was watching Omari Hardy, who's a city commissioner who really laid it into Mayor Pam Triolo in Lake Worth, Florida, because they're cutting people's lights off and air conditioning off in Florida. They're not closing the beaches, and he was so furious at the state level and looking for leadership from that mayor, and he didn't see it, but he was calling her to task. In your book, The Nation City, you talk about how to get things done in America, and it seems to me that Trump is not going to do it from the federal level. What should they be doing in the states?
Look, first of all, look, the journalist was doing his job.
Right.
The idea that you would attack a journalist, and also you can't sit there and say, crises reveal character. And even though President Trump says, I want us to come together, I want us to solve this as one country, and then he attacks people for doing their job, is actually contrary, in his own words, to what his aspirations are. And there's a reason governors and mayors, even when they're making tough decisions, remember, Governor DeWine in Ohio, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, Governor Cuomo in New York, Governor Newsom in California, are doing very, very tough things, but they're being forthright with the public, and the public is responding accordingly, even when it is tough love. And what the president's doing is, rather than, can you imagine this president saying charity for none? Malice towards none? Can you imagine him? Or not only saying it, but in his inaugural, also practicing what he has just rhetorically called forth, the better angels. I really think in this case, the president is in a make-or-break moment with this pandemic, as is the country. And his presidency will either rise to the occasion.
Dr. Fauci, who has to sit there and listen to this garbage that's coming out of this man's mouth, all this misinformation, and the who uses a scarf in the most interesting ways.
Unfortunately,
I know Dr. Fauci.
What an idiot he is. And Dr. Fauci is being forced to touch his face, which he's not supposed to do.
Have you ever
watching
guys? We gotta go. We gotta go, but we're gonna talk more with Rahm Emanuel when we come back.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden is live on The View to talk about why he says President Trump is failing America with the way he's handling the coronavirus pandemic and his plan to fix it.
Hey, welcome back. Sara Haynes.
Thanks, Whoopi. We actually have a clip of what Joy was talking about a few seconds ago. It was Fauci putting his hands on his face. Take a look.
I'd like him to go back to the State Department, or as they call it, the Deep State Department, if you don't mind. I'd like to have him go back and do his job. So does anybody have any question? Please.
Mr. Secretary.
So we're getting a visual of what things are looking like right now.
Sara and I have been talking about this. It just seems to me that networks should not even be, at this point, broadcasting his 90 minutes of misinformation. I understand when Cuomo's on, that's one thing, but I almost think it's a disservice to the country at this point.
The reason that they...
You know what, I'd like...
He cannot have those MAGA Trump rallies anymore, where they tell him how wonderful he is. So he goes on and is using us instead of the MAGA rallies, and that's why he makes no sense, because he never made any sense when he was doing those rallies. And poor Dr. Fauci. And you know what? I'm falling in love with Andrew Cuomo. He always used to annoy me, but now I find him, he's so brilliant that I can't believe I'm so in love with Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know what? It's kind of like how you feel about your husband.
My husband is Jewish.
He used to annoy you. Now you love him now.
Listen, the other thing that would be nice is if the people in Washington would step away from each other, because I feel like they're all too close on the podium.
Yeah.
That podium has too many people up there.
Yeah. No
You know,
social
well,
distancing.
That's my
Practice what they
opinion.
preach. No one. They've been touching each other. They're touching their face. They're on top of each other. Pence is touching Trump.
And viewers need to
you
use,
know what?
Americans
You know-
need to use some common sense right now. Look at who you're listening to when they speak, because right now we are getting some more consistent messaging when you listen to the doctors, like Dr. Fauci. So continue to do due diligence and self-advocate and make sure you're taking this from a multitude of sources.
Yeah.
Here's the thing on the president. Look, this is make or break for the country, and it's make or break for him. And I wouldn't, sometimes I put him on and I just put it on mute or whatever. The fact is, he should do his press conference, but if people are going to see, and this is what happens in crisis. A lot of people had doubts about Roosevelt. A lot of people had doubts about Kennedy, the maturity. And in the moment of time of a crisis, their character got revealed. And that's going to happen here for this president. Well, you can't run away from character. And before we go, I want to say one thing. Can I say one thing?
We have 18 seconds, Rahm. 18 seconds.
Megan, I have 3 wonderful grown children. You're about to experience the greatest miracle of life, and mazel tov to you and your husband.
Oh, that's right. We'll be right back.
Next, spring into action on View Your Deal. We partnered with vendors for at least half off products that'll make your garden grow gorgeously this season.
We're all spending a lot more time at home this spring, so we're giving you some great reasons to stay busy in the backyard. We've partnered with vendors to offer at least half off gardening products that'll make your place gorgeous just while supplies last. Speaking of gorgeous, here to show them off is my friend Sara Haynes.
Yay! Okay.
And I love this stuff.
We have been talking about this. So this is Home Bazaar birdhouses. They have been doing these for over 20 years, made with wood, as you can see, and such detail
So
along here. You see the stone and the boxes. And honestly, if you put this outside, you are attracting those birds. And I can't think of a better time to be reminded of the cycles of life. So these are stunning. The original price was $40 to $200. But today it's $20 to $99.
I love
with
it.
a savings of 50%.
And even if you live in the city, you can try to put it on a rooftop or a fire
Absolutely, and it
escape.
kind of channels the inner dollhouse that we grew up with. Now, this is another way to get those birds to come. This is coals, feeders, and seeds. Now, these are, you can hang these right outside, all natural seeds to put out, and the birds will come. They have an easy bottom part, so you can clean really super easy, but this is another way to attract, as these seasons change, those birds to come right to your house. You can hang that. If you don't have a lot of space for a birdhouse, you can definitely just pop one of these up, and all those little birds are going to come visit you.
It's gorgeous.
Again, the perfect time to do that. Originally, these were $13 to $67. The deal today is $6.50 to $27 and free shipping.
Free shipping!
Which we love. Now, this is one of my favorites. Okay, so today, this is Backyard Safari Grows Garden. You could use these with Easter right around the corner. This is a great way, if you're not a huge candy-heavy household, to put these in Easter baskets. Perfect activity with the kids. It comes with everything you need. So right here, it has the soil, the seeds, the little labels, and a little egg crate. You can make your own little garden at home. Have the kids participate, or if you just don't have a green thumb like myself, figure it out by yourself. But the original price on these is $13, but today they're $6.50 with a savings of 50%.
Can I mention this?
Or you could just throw it on the set, Sonny.
That was a